A shy girl undergoes a gynecological surgery. Shockingly, her doctor is a young millionaire and falls deeply in love with her. The air inside the waiting room felt thick, heavy with the faint scent of antiseptic and quiet murmurs. Emily Harper sat in the corner, her hands clenched tightly in her lap, thumbs rubbing over each other again and again in nervous rhythm. Her legs bounced involuntarily, the anxiety rolling in waves too strong to ignore. She had postponed this visit for years. Her gynecological issues had worsened over time. Despite the dull pain that had become her new normal, the thought of letting someone, especially a man, near her again was unbearable. Yet, her doctor had insisted, "You can't ignore this any longer," her tone both kind and firm. Emily recalled clearly that she had requested a female physician when making the appointment, triple-checking the selection on the online form. So when the nurse called her name and announced, "You'll be with Dr. Adrien West today," her heart slammed against her ribs. "Wait," she blurted, standing abruptly. "Is he male?" The nurse blinked, surprised. "Yes, Drive West is one of our top gynecologists. Is something wrong?" Emily took a step back, her throat tightening. "I thought I was scheduled with a female doctor." The nurse offered a polite but apologetic smile. "I'm sorry. There might have been a scheduling change, but I assure you Drive West is extremely professional. He's helped many women who came in just as nervous as you. You're in very good hands." Emily hesitated, torn between fear and necessity. Her abdomen throbbed gently, a cruel reminder that she needed help. Yet, everything in her screamed to run. She glanced at the closed exam room door and then back at the nurse. I don't like being touched," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I understand," the nurse replied softly. "You can stop the exam at any time. Nothing will happen without your consent." Emily's pulse pounded as she nodded stiffly, following the nurse down the hallway. Each step felt like walking toward a memory she had spent years trying to bury. Inside the room, she changed into the medical gown, the fabric cold against her skin. She sat on the edge of the examination table, arms wrapped tightly around herself, breathing slow and shallow. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Miss Harper, may I come in?" She didn't answer, only stared at the wall. The door creaked open, and Dr. Adrien West stepped in, holding a clipboard. His presence filled the room, not in an intimidating way, but with a calm, grounding energy. He was tall and lean, with kind hazel eyes and a voice smooth like calm water. "Hello, Emily," he said gently, setting the clipboard down. "I understand there was some confusion about the appointment today. I want to know if you're uncomfortable for any reason. We can reschedule or stop at any moment. You have full control here." Emily didn't meet his gaze. "Just get it over with," she murmured. Adrien nodded, not offended by her tone. "All right, I'll talk through everything I do before I do it, okay?" She gave the faintest nod. He began with basic questions, keeping his tone light but respectful. She answered quietly, her hands fidgeting with the hem of the gown. When it came time for the physical exam, he explained everything in clear, professional terms. "I'm going to examine your lower abdomen now," he said. "Let me know immediately if you feel any pain or discomfort." He pressed gently, starting from the outer areas. She was tense beneath his fingers, every muscle rigid. As he moved closer to the pelvic region, his hand brushed too close to her inner thigh. Something inside her snapped. Her eyes widened, and her breath caught. "Don't touch me," she shouted, shoving his hand away and jerking her body back so violently that the stirrups clanged against the metal table. Adrien stepped back instinctively, both hands raised in surprise. Emily scrambled off the table, holding the gown tightly against herself. Her eyes filled with tears, wide with fury and panic. "Do you even know what you just did?" she screamed. "Do you think because you wear that coat, you can just touch women however you want?" "Wait, Emily," Adrien began, but she was already backing toward the door. "Don't talk to me. Don't follow me. Just stay away." She flung the door open, tears spilling down her cheeks, and ran out barefoot down the hallway. The nurse tried to call after her, but Emily was gone before anyone could react. Adrien stood there in stunned silence, his face a mixture of concern and confusion. His hands remained raised for a moment, then slowly lowered as his mind reeled. He had no idea what had just happened, but he could feel it. This wasn't about him. Something deeper had been triggered in that room, and whatever it was had left a wound wide open. Emily slammed the door shut behind her, her chest heaving as if she had just outrun a storm. Her coat slipped from her shoulders, forgotten as she dropped to the floor, her back pressed against the door. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to keep from falling apart. Tears came fast, hot, angry, and unstoppable. She had thought she could handle it. Thought time had dulled the pain. But one accidental clinical touch had sent her spiraling. The panic, the shame, the memories, all came rushing back. She was 15 again, awkward and shy, her body beginning to change in ways she didn't understand. It had been a routine school health screening. Her classmates joked and teased each other while waiting their turn. When her name was called, she entered a small partitioned room where a middle-aged male doctor waited with a too wide smile. At first, it was normal, blood pressure, reflexes, but then his hands lingered. He commented on her development and said he needed to check something for her future health. She remembered the way his fingers brushed her chest, how close he leaned in, his breath heavy with coffee and mint. Frozen with confusion, she hadn't known what to do until she ran. She told her teacher, the nurse, even her mother. No one believed her. "Emily, are you exaggerating again?" Her mother sighed. "He's been coming here for years." The nurse said, "He's perfectly professional. The kids were cruel. She just wants attention." She probably misunderstood. What a drama queen. Emily learned then that sometimes the truth didn't matter, not if no one wanted to hear it. She stopped speaking up, stopped attending sleepovers, stopped trusting. Her world shrank until silence was the only place that felt safe. Even now, 10 years later, that silence clung to her like a second skin. She pulled herself off the floor and stumbled into the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face. Her reflection stared back, older but not stronger. She hated that she still trembled, that her skin felt wrong again, that she had trusted the system only to be shattered once more. Adrien hadn't meant harm. She knew that, but her body didn't care. It remembered. Wrapped in a blanket on her couch, she stared out at the gray sky. The pain in her abdomen pulsed dully, a quiet reminder that fear wouldn't make it go away. She needed help, but how could she ask for it without losing herself again? 3 days passed. She called in sick the first day, the second, but on the third morning, something pulled her back to the bookstore, her tiny sanctuary of old pages and quiet moments. The bell above the door chimed as she entered, sunlight spilling through dusty windows, warming the familiar shelves. She brewed herself peppermint tea and turned on a soft jazz playlist. By mid-morning, the shop had returned to its usual rhythm. Customers browsing, the occasional chat, the rustle of turning pages. Emily kept to herself, restocking bookmarks behind the counter. Then the bell chimed again. "Excuse me," came a voice, calm, familiar. She froze. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. Dr. Adrien West stood in the center of the store, holding a small notebook. His expression was surprised, almost apologetic. He wore jeans and a navy coat. No white coat, no stethoscope. Just a man who hadn't expected to see her either. "Emily," he said carefully, "I didn't know you worked here." She blinked, her heart thudding. "Are you following me?" "No, I swear I didn't know. My mom loves old books. She's recovering from surgery, and I thought this place might have something for her." She looked away, gripping the counter. "I just wanted to say," he stepped closer cautiously, "I'm sorry about what happened at the clinic. I never meant to make you uncomfortable. If I did anything inappropriate, you didn't," she interrupted sharply. He paused, realizing the weight of her words. Emily's voice turned cold. "I know you didn't mean to, but that doesn't change how it felt." He nodded, understanding. There was a beat of silence, and the store suddenly felt too small. "I just wanted to apologize," he continued. "Not as a doctor, but as a person. You didn't deserve to feel unsafe." Finally, she looked at him, not at the doctor, but at the man. He didn't look polished or guarded. He looked tired, human. "I don't need a doctor's pity," she said flatly. "I'm not offering pity," he replied, his eyes softening. "I'm offering understanding." Emily shook her head and stepped past him toward the back shelves. You don't know anything about me. Maybe not, he replied, his voice quiet. But that doesn't mean I don't care. She paused, but only for a moment before disappearing into the back room. When she returned, he was gone. 3 days passed in a haze of uncertainty and quiet reflection. Emily called in sick the first day, then the second, retreating further into her cocoon of anxiety. But on the third morning, a flicker of determination sparked within her, pulling her back to the bookstore, a sanctuary filled with the scent of old pages and the comfort of familiar spaces. As she entered, the bell above the door chimed, announcing her arrival. Sunlight streamed through the dusty windows, casting warm, golden light on the shelves that held countless stories. She brewed herself a cup of peppermint tea and turned on the soft jazz playlist, letting the soothing melodies wash over her. By mid-morning, the shop had returned to its usual rhythm, with customers browsing, engaging in the occasional friendly chat, and the rustle of turning pages creating a comforting backdrop. Emily kept to herself, restocking bookmarks behind the counter, but her mind was elsewhere, tangled in thoughts of her recent encounter with Dr. Adrien West. Just as she found a fleeting moment of peace, the bell chimed again, breaking her concentration. "Excuse me," came a calm voice that sent a shiver down her spine. It was Adrien. She froze, her heart racing as she turned to face him. He stood in the center of the store, holding a small notebook, his expression caught between surprise and concern. He was dressed casually in jeans and a navy coat. No white coat, no stethoscope, just a man who looked as if he hadn't expected to see her again. "Emily," he said carefully, his voice warm and inviting. "I didn't know you work here." She blinked, caught off guard. "Are you following me?" she asked bluntly, her voice sharper than she intended. "No, I swear I didn't know. My mom loves old books. She's recovering from surgery, and I thought this place might have something for her," he explained, his tone earnest. She looked away, gripping the edge of the counter, feeling a mix of emotions swirl inside her. "I just wanted to say," he began, stepping closer, his demeanor cautious and respectful. "I'm sorry about what happened at the clinic. I never meant to make you uncomfortable," he continued, his eyes searching hers for understanding. Emily cut him off, her heart pounding. "You didn't," she said, her voice firm. "I know you didn't mean to, but that doesn't change how it felt." His expression softened, and he nodded, acknowledging the truth in her words. There was a brief silence, the air thick with unspoken tension, and the store suddenly felt too small for both of them. "I just wanted to apologize," he reiterated. "Not as a doctor, but as a person. You didn't deserve to feel unsafe." Finally, she looked at him, not as the doctor who had caused her distress, but as a man who seemed genuine in his concern. He didn't appear polished or guarded. Instead, he looked tired and human. "I don't need a doctor's pity," she replied flatly, feeling a surge of defiance. "I'm not offering pity," he countered, his voice steady. "I'm offering understanding." Emily shook her head, stepping past him toward the back shelves, her walls rising once more. "You don't know anything about me." "Maybe not," he said quietly, "but that doesn't mean I don't care." She paused, his words hanging in the air, but only for a moment before she disappeared into the back room, feeling as though she had retreated into a part of herself that was both familiar and frightening. When she returned to the front, he was gone, leaving behind a sense of emptiness that settled heavy in her chest. Days turned into a blur as Emily navigated the complexities of her emotions and the persistent pain in her abdomen. Each moment felt like a battle, but she found herself increasingly drawn to the bookstore, her refuge from the outside world. One afternoon, as she organized a new shipment of books, she caught sight of a familiar figure outside the window. It was Adrien, his tall frame moving with purpose as he approached the entrance. Her heart skipped a beat, and she felt a mix of anticipation and dread. "Hey, Emily," he greeted her as he stepped inside, his voice warm and genuine. "I hope you don't mind me dropping by again." "No, it's fine," she replied, trying to maintain her composure. "What brings you here?" "I wanted to check in on you." "I've been thinking about you since the clinic," he admitted, his gaze steady and sincere. "How have you been?" Emily hesitated, unsure of how to respond. "I've been managing," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's been a lot to process." "I can only imagine," Adrien replied, his expression softening. "If you ever want to talk about it, I'm here." No pressure, though. His kindness surprised her, and for a moment, the wall she had built around her heart began to tremble. "Thank you," she said, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I appreciate that." They fell into easy conversation, discussing their favorite books and the latest trends in literature. Emily found herself laughing, the tension in her shoulders slowly easing. It was a welcome distraction, a brief escape from the fears that had haunted her for so long. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow through the bookstore, Adrien's demeanor shifted. "I know this might be too soon, but I'd really like to help you with anything you need. I want to be there for you, whether it's about your health or just life in general," he said, his voice steady and sincere. Emily felt her heart race, uncertainty creeping in once more. "I don't want to burden you," she replied, her defenses rising. "You have your own life to deal with." "I want to be a part of your life," he insisted gently. "You're not a burden to me, Emily. You matter." His words struck a chord deep within her, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe she could let someone in. Maybe she could allow herself to trust again. "Okay," she said finally, her voice trembling slightly. "I'd like that." Adrien smiled, a genuine expression of relief and joy washing over his face. "Great. Let's take it one step at a time." As they continued to talk, Emily felt a sense of connection growing between them, something that felt both new and familiar. It was as if they were building a bridge over the chasm of her past, each shared moment reinforcing the structure. The next day, she returned to the bookstore with a renewed sense of purpose. The pain in her abdomen still lingered, but it felt less suffocating, less consuming. She was ready to confront her fears, to seek the help she needed. That evening, she found herself standing outside West Medical's private hospital, staring up at the imposing glass exterior. Her heart raced as she summoned the courage to step inside. The receptionist greeted her with a kind smile, and Emily felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. "I'd like to speak to Dr. Adrien West," she said, her voice steady despite the anxiety coursing through her. "Do you have an appointment?" the receptionist asked, tilting her head slightly. "No," Emily replied, determination surging within her. "But he knows me. Just please tell him it's Emily Harper." Less than 10 minutes later, Adrien appeared in the hallway, his expression shifting from surprise to genuine concern as he approached her. "Emily," he said softly, his voice filled with warmth. "What's wrong?" "I need this surgery," she said without hesitation. "And I want you to do it." Adrien blinked, clearly taken aback. "Are you sure?" She nodded, her resolve solidifying. "I've thought about it. I've tried to avoid it, but I know I need it. And I trust you." His gaze softened, a mixture of awe and reverence in his eyes. "You have no idea how much that means." As they discussed the details, Emily felt a sense of relief wash over her. This was a step toward healing, a step toward reclaiming her life. And for the first time, she felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, she could emerge from this experience stronger than before. The days leading up to Emily's surgery were a strange mix of anxiety and calm. She felt a whirlwind of emotions, but beneath it all lay a determination that had begun to take root. Adrien was with her every step of the way, guiding her through the process with patience and care. He explained each detail thoroughly, never rushing her, always giving her the space to express her fears. He treated her as a person, not just a patient, which made all the difference. The night before the surgery, Emily lay in her hospital bed, the sterile environment a stark contrast to the warmth she had begun to feel towards Adrien. The four in her arm felt foreign, and she stared out the window at the darkening sky, her mind racing. She heard a soft knock on the door, and Adrien stepped in, his presence instantly comforting. "I won't ask if you're nervous," he said gently, pulling up a chair beside her. "I am," she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "But less than I thought I'd be." He smiled, a reassuring warmth in his eyes. "Do you want me to talk you through it again?" "No," she replied, turning to him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I just want you to know something." He leaned in, attentive. "I'm listening." "I don't trust easily," she admitted, her voice wavering. "I don't let people close. I've spent half my life behind a wall because of what someone took from me." She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her confession. Adrien's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, allowing her to continue. "But you didn't push. You didn't force. You waited. You listened. And somewhere along the way, without even trying to, you earned something I thought I'd lost forever." Her voice trembled as she spoke. "I don't trust doctors. I don't trust men. I don't even trust myself sometimes, but I trust you." Adrien's throat worked to swallow his emotion as he placed a hand gently over hers. "I won't let you down," he said, his voice thick with sincerity. The next morning, the surgical team prepped early, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Adrien scrubbed in, his mind sharper than ever. He had performed this procedure dozens of times, but this time felt different. This time, the patient on the table wasn't just a name on a chart. She was Emily, the woman who had once flinched at his touch, who had run from his office, and who had every reason to fear him, yet had still returned. He was determined to protect the trust she had placed in him with everything he had. As the operation began, every move he made was meticulous, every incision precise. He communicated calmly with his team, his focus unwavering. Hours passed, but he didn't feel the passage of time. He was enveloped in the steady rhythm of focus and care, only aware of the responsibility he held in his hands. When the procedure was over, he removed his gloves and exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he had been holding. "It went perfectly," he told the nurses, relief flooding through him. But he didn't leave right away. He stood by Emily's bed in recovery, watching the soft rise and fall of her chest. She looked pale and fragile, but peaceful. She had made it through, and so had he. Hours later, Emily woke, groggy and sore, but alive. Adrien was there, sitting in the chair beside her bed, half asleep with a book in his lap. As her eyes fluttered open, he smiled gently. "Hey," he said, his voice warm and inviting. "Welcome back." She blinked slowly, her voice a rasp as she spoke. "Did it work?" "Everything went perfectly," he assured her, relief flooding his voice. "You're going to be just fine." Tears slipped down her cheeks, not from pain, but from overwhelming relief. "I did it," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You did," he agreed, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "You were so brave." In that quiet room, filled with the scent of antiseptic and hope, Emily felt something shift inside her. The fear wasn't gone, but it was no longer in control. For the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving, she was healing. With Adrien by her side, she began to believe in the possibility of a future free from the shadows of her past. As the days after Emily's surgery unfolded, they passed in a haze of healing and quiet moments filled with warmth. Adrien visited often, but not just as her doctor. He came as someone who genuinely cared. He brought her favorite tea, sat beside her while she read, and listened without needing to fix anything. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, creating a bond that felt both fragile and profound. Emily was healing not just physically, but emotionally as well. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel broken. The hospital room, once a place of fear, became a sanctuary where trust began to blossom. She found herself opening up to Adrien in ways she hadn't anticipated, sharing her thoughts and fears, and allowing him to see her vulnerability. One afternoon, after a final checkup, Emily lingered near the waiting area while Adrien wrapped up some paperwork. She wandered down the hall to stretch her legs, walking slowly past a group of nurses chatting near the break room. "She's still here," one of them remarked, her tone casual but sharp. "You mean the girl Drive West operated on?" Another nurse responded with a dismissive laugh. "Yeah, she's been around a lot lately." "Well, of course she has. If I were a patient with no money, no status, I'd hang around a millionaire doctor too," the first nurse snorted. Emily's stomach twisted as she overheard their laughter. "She's just a damaged girl who got lucky. She's not his type, not even close." Their words felt like needles, sharp and targeted, aiming straight for her most vulnerable places. She backed away slowly, her heart thudding in her chest. She didn't need to hear more. The laughter echoed in her mind, leaving her feeling exposed and raw. That night, sleep eluded her. She sat at her kitchen table, a cup of untouched tea in front of her, staring at the simple piece of paper in her hands. It read, "I'm grateful for everything, but I think it's time for me to leave. You deserve someone whole, someone strong, not someone you had to fix. Don't look for me." With a heavy heart, she placed the note on the windowsill, knowing Adrien would find it the next time he came by. Then she packed a small bag, slipping away into the night before the weight of her decision could fully settle in. The next morning, Adrien arrived at her apartment, 2 coffees and a book in hand, happy to surprise her. He knocked softly, but there was no answer. Using the key she had once shyly given him, he stepped inside, the silence striking him immediately. It was too quiet. When he spotted the note, his heart sank as he read the words, the meaning cutting deeper than he had expected. "She's gone." Panic crawled up his spine as he called her name, but there was no response. He called the bookstore, only to learn she had asked for time off. Desperation fueled him as he searched every place he could think of. Parks, cafes, even the quiet bookstore corner where she used to sit and read alone. But she was nowhere to be found until late that evening, when a memory pulled him to the small park near the pond, the same place where everything had changed. He drove there, a silent prayer on his lips, and found her sitting on the bench by the water, knees pulled to her chest, eyes swollen from crying. She didn't look up when he approached, but she didn't move away either. He sat beside her, allowing the silence to envelop them for a long moment, letting the wind speak first. "You didn't even give me a chance to fight for you," he finally said softly, his voice breaking the stillness. Emily wiped her cheek with the sleeve of her sweater, her heart heavy. "You shouldn't have to," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to fight for you," he insisted, turning to face her, his gaze fierce. "Why do you keep believing that your pain makes you less?" "Because it does," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm the girl with scars. I'm the one with baggage and fear and trust issues. And you're Adrien West." His gaze didn't waver. "I don't want easy. I want real. And you're the bravest person I've ever met." Tears welled in her eyes as she shook her head. "You don't know what they're saying about me, about us. The nurses, the people in your hospital, they think I'm just some poor, broken thing clinging to a rich man." He reached out, taking her hand in his. "I don't care what they say. I care what you say. Right now, all I hear is a voice that's been trained to doubt herself." He squeezed her fingers gently. "But I see you, all of you, and I choose you again and again." Her lips trembled, and she felt a rush of emotions overwhelming her. "I was so afraid," she whispered. "So was I," he replied, his voice steady. "Until I met you." In that moment, as she leaned into him and he wrapped his arms around her like a shield, the noise of the world faded away. They were 2 souls intertwined, finding strength in each other as they faced the uncertainty ahead. Together, they would navigate the journey of healing, hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever came next.